So it's the 27th, and there's no real big news. So on the bottom line, we're going to cover that little Apple event they had today. We've got Kirk, Hiner, and Rich DeMuro.
Times are tough, so save time and money by skipping business trips and using GoToMeeting. Visit gotomeeting.com/techpodcast and get 30 days for free.
Apple event is finally over. It seemed to go on for about an hour and a half. We're all watching the live blogs, and we think what we saw was the iPad. It's got a silly name. I know a lot of people are already making fun of it. It's a tablet computer. Guys, okay, let's go to Kirk first. What do you think about the iPad? What are your general impressions?
Couple things. First of all, I do agree. I think the iPad is not a good name for it. I think they should have done more to disassociate it from the iPod, since it does quite a bit more. Don't know if it was worth 2 years of rumor mongering, but by and large, I'm happy with it. I think it's a logical mid-step between the iPod Touch and the MacBook, especially considering that it comes with a dockable keyboard and stand.
Wait, is that included, or is that an optional?
Just carrying around the house.
Is that included or an optional? I thought it was an optional accessory.
Yeah, it's optional, but the fact that they're even announcing it up front, acknowledging that nobody's going to want to use Pages by typing directly on a screen.
Rich, what do you think?
I think everything's optional with this. I mean, they really are quick to promote that $499 price point, but who really wants this thing, clobbered like that, where it's got no 3G in it and the small storage space? So I don't know. For $500, not sure that it's worth it. But at the high point, 64 gigs for the $829, where you get the Wi-Fi, the 3G. Now you're talking. You have the device that people thought we were going to get. Still no camera on this thing, which really, to me, just makes no sense, because the ideal idea of having this would be to use it as sort of a video conferencing device where you can sit on your couch, a phone call comes in because it's sitting on your coffee table, and boom, you're talking to someone in full video. That, to me, is one of the killer apps on this thing they've really missed.
Yeah, what I was surprised with is usually they go, this is a tablet or this is a device, and here's how you're going to use it. This is how it's going to change everything. It just kind of felt like a tablet computer that Microsoft's been yelling about since, I don't know, 95? They've been like, oh, the tablet, the Slate's the way to go. I mean, do you see anything, Kirk, do you see anything that's specific to the iPad that makes it different than something like the HP Slate, or actually any number of tablet computers that are out there in the PC market?
Not really, aside from the fact that it will run, as they said, almost all, which I assume is their way of saying we couldn't possibly test every iPhone app out there. But having the ability to run iPhone apps, the huge number of apps that are already available, and you don't have to purchase again, makes it more attractive to people who would consider such a device if they already have an iPhone or an iPod Touch. People who weren't interested at all in something like this, I don't think it will make them interested. So not really, but you also have to keep in mind that when Apple releases a device, a lot of times they have extra features like, say, the camera anticipated, but because they're going to want to hit you for an upgrade in another year, they'll just roll that into that model.
Yeah, not a fan of that line of thinking, but I do see what you're saying. I think that the 50-50 part on this is the double-edged sword is the book and the reader function, because while I do think it'd be amazing to have this on your kitchen table, so in the morning you have the New York Times automatically delivered to it, looks great, blows away the Kindle for that functionality. The flip side is, at the end of the day, and you guys are on computers all day too, I don't want to be looking at another LED backlit screen. So that's the whole beauty of the Kindle, is this e-ink, and I know it has its pros and cons, but I don't really want to read a book on this, while I probably would read the newspaper on this. So that's sort of the double-edged sword I see on this, on the reader side of it.
I think Apple did a really smart thing with the pricing. I mean, I know it's got a lot of different prices because it starts at $499. This has happened to me before. You know, the Mac Mini came out, I'm like, I saw the price, $499, it's so cheap. And then you start adding things, like, oh, that's another $30, and that's another $50, and before you know it, you're buying the $829 version. I mean, if you wanted to buy a Kindle or a Nook, I mean, do you think it's going to be easy for somebody to move from a Kindle, when they go, okay, $329 I think is the price of the Kindle? Will they want to be spending all that extra money for something like an iPad? Is it really competing in the ebook market is really what I'm asking, I guess. What do you think, Kirk?
I think that if somebody already owns a Kindle, there's not enough here at this point to justify upgrading to an iPad. I think if there are people out there who are considering a Kindle but didn't want to spend that much money on something that only allows you to read books, this might be something that's more attractive to them, because they can get all of the Kindle functionality, but also get more. They can also access Facebook and watch YouTube videos and check the news. as they said. So there's a little bit more here to make it attractive to people who are kind of wavering on the Kindle to begin with.
Have we heard anything about multiple applications at one time? Because I haven't heard that yet.
I have not heard that. They didn't mention anything about that. Yeah, I mean, so it's still, they didn't really go into the operating system that much. I mean, the rumor is that it's based on the iPhone operating system. I'm not sure they confirmed that or said anything, but they didn't really go into the operating system. So we don't really know what's different about this one, other than, the applications they mentioned.
So let's a quick poll. Anybody buying the Rev A iPad? You guys?
Not. Probably not.
I actually might. My wife was bugging me to get a Kindle a couple weeks ago, and I told her to wait for this. I may end up doing this instead of getting her the Kindle.
You're going to get her the iPad?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to use it. I need a real computer.
But
yeah, I think Kirk, you're touching upon something is who really is this for? Because people that are, this is sort of like an extra device. It's not necessarily going to replace a Kindle. Like my wife wants a Kindle. I probably wouldn't get her this because a Kindle is going to do just what she needs. So I think that it's a really interesting market where it's for people that just sort of want this device. They want it to sit on their kitchen or their kitchen table or their coffee table. And when I had the iPod Touch, it was the same thing. It would just sit there and you'd be watching a TV show and you go, oh, I want to Google something. Let me just grab this instead of going to get my laptop. You just pick up the iTouch. Now it's going to be the iPad. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think people can definitely see this in their places, but nobody necessarily needs one.
Yeah, Apple. Go ahead.
Another thing I think it has going for it is that, if I get this, for my wife so she can have the Kindle functionality, it also plays videos. And I would feel much more comfortable handing this, device, which is basically one piece to my kids, if they want to watch a movie in the car. I wouldn't do that with my laptop. I'm not handing off my MacBook to my kids to watch a movie. But this is one piece with hinges and no opening parts, so it's a much more sturdy.
Good point. I see a huge market there for video, just as a video device, because it's the screen size you've always wanted for a handheld video device that's not a laptop. So I do see that.
Now I'm
better than the iPhone for that.
I'm going to put this out there. There should be a developer out there right now making a foldable keyboard to make this the cheapest Mac laptop you can get. I mean, $499 for a Mac is actually pretty cheap considering. Even though it's not fully OS 10, I still think it's a good entryway. It's kind of like their gateway drug concepts where they do that with the iPhone. You love the iPod, don't you? Want a Mac? I mean, this seems like that kind of device. Guys, thanks a lot for being on the show. Kirk, Hiner from Appletell, Rich DeMuro from Techmeme.com. And we'll be talking about this, I guess, a lot more. So long, guys.
All right, thanks
for having us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You can watch TechVee, I bet, on the iPad. So go ahead and do that.
Perfect.
This show brought to you by Zazzle. Use promo code TechVShow12 and get 12% off any order over $75 from Zazzle.com.